Yeah, I'm just seeing if maybe the other one. There, I moved the
Right.
microphone.
All right, you got sound
Okay, so
now?
sound is on this one. Let me switch over because I did fuck with the webcam setting.
Okay.
Other properties on this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's set to capture audio only. No custom audio thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it
You
seems
should be able to
like
hear.
the. That's what I'm checking this
Right.
one because it seems like it's specifically just the prelude doesn't work.
Right.
Because prelude back over to here.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's on the other two, but I don't
Right.
understand why it's not on that one.
Okay. What the fuck would be different? I can't imagine. We should be. I know we'll be ready in a second. Give us just a minute. If we just want to get started right now, we can just go with
I'm
the.
trying something real quick.
Okay.
Go in here, select the copy. Since apparently that's
Okay. Well, we can. If it's not working, then we can just go with the weekly raid and just keep it up for right now, and we can figure out the technical issues over the week.
okay. So yeah, we're just both. Yeah. So everybody can hear us now,
Yes, you
right?
can hear us now, right? Big thumbs up from chat.
I'm about to just fucking pull up my phone. So it's fucking easier.
Yeah.
They're slow.
Oh, you just got back, so you can hear us right now. That was my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What about silencing your fucking phones?
Well, we're in the middle of. Okay, so now we have somebody else saying they can't hear us in chat.
Okay, so this is can hear you fine. Okay.
Okay, can't hear us fine? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
Can.
Okay.
Now that we
Sorry.
have that up, I can switch
Yeah,
over
all
to
right,
the
cool.
chat that we can
All
actually
right, so
read.
we'll just keep the weekly rate up and the boss room going. Appreciate that, guys. Sorry, we're trying out this new overlay and it just...
Apparently, it decided to eat the audio for
Yeah.
one section. That's fucking fine.
Yeah, sorry about that,
No
guys.
food.
We are ready to go, so let's...
Ish.
Ish. Appreciate the patience
More
here.
like, now that that part's done, I have to move everything, move the rest of it back to over here where I can actually do it, and also change the camera angle if I need to do that.
Yeah.
So,
All right, cool. All right. There we go. Hi, everybody. Look at us. We're actually going to do a show. Appreciate you guys sticking around while we hammer out the technicals here. We'll have it all working by next week, unless we find 5 more problems. You know, it happens.
There's super gonna be more.
There's always going to be more problems.
Dude, I just fucking got up. Go ahead.
Okay. This is going to be a fun episode.
I guess I could move us just a little bit.
I'm super excited about this. We are going to be talking about the Bethesda stuff. We had a request for that. We'll be talking a little bit about Disney's acquisition of Fox and what that is going to do for certain movies, which is rather unfortunate. And we're going to be talking about the World of Darkness. It's spoopy season, and so we really wanted to do something fun just because the news has been so freaking heavy lately. So with Hector out, I decided to take this chance to kind of talk about something that was very important to Tony and I growing up, something that we can kind of really sit down and dive into and have some fun with, especially with all the new video games coming out that are based on it. So I think it's a good time to reevaluate and kind of discuss those things. That being said, if you have any things that you're curious about in terms of the RPG, if we're not clarifying anything about the RPG, let us know, just because there's a lot to discuss and break down. I mean, this is a gaming system that has had years and years and years of books written about it and lore written about it, and we're going to try and pare everything down in a digestible way so that everybody can kind of understands both the RPG and the cultural impact of the RPG. But again, it's going to be a lot. So, all right.
All right. God, my fat is showing. Yeah, we really can't see the things.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
There's part of a thing, but this one, the way I have it's just the camera's too high. I have to have more of the desk showing.
Yeah, we're fine for right now.
I'll fucking mess with it later. That nap fucked me up, dude. I was like, oh, I'm just a little tired. I'm gonna take a nap. Oh, nope. End of days. God damn it.
All right, there we go. Now we're good to go.
Ish.
Ish.
Because I still need to do the audio test.
That's probably true, to be perfectly fair.
I actually can't see shit that you're saying, so let's just put that back over here.
I think as adults, if we nap more than 30 minutes, we're just like dead to the world after that.
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking useless. Beyond just taking the nap, but like, no,
Yeah.
I decided to get shit done for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, tired happened after I ate. Because that's a thing now.
Yeah.
If I eat, I get tired.
Yep.
I don't like it.
Steam Halloween sale started. You know, I usually try and avoid most Steam sales unless it's like the Christmas sale, and even now, like those sales aren't as good as they used to be back in the day.
They're really not. Like,
They used to be like super
cool.
awesome.
It's thousands of games on sale that I didn't want in the first place.
Right.
They're not going to be running any special deals to where I get like this really cool game that just came out for like $5.
Right. Exactly.
They're not going to do that anymore. Like if the only way to do that is to run one of their crazy weird contest things that they do.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only way you do it. But you have to pay attention every fucking day to their contest bullshit to be able to earn points or whatever to fucking
Right.
get the deal that is that.
Yeah, that's not any fun.
And even then, at the end, you don't know if it's fucking the game that you want is even going to be in that list of things that are now discounted because you played the game long enough.
Right.
It's fucking stupid. Just, I get that Steam is like the least of the evils that we have to deal with for these fucking stores, but it's a bloated fucking piece of shit.
Glad we're not talking about Steam today, though. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah, sure. Ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Oh, I didn't find that sound effect yet. You have to remind me later because I
Okay.
was like, when you messaged me, that's when I was already watching TV and I was like, I'm not getting off the couch.
Okay.
And then I lived there because that's where I fell asleep.
What is the World of Darkness, and why is it making a comeback in a big way? Adventures get spooky for an all-new episode.
Oh, and Hector, really hope your voice is back next week because that's the episode 333. So that's the one that's halfway to evil that I decided that's what we're talking about, even though there's other things that we're going to talk about.
We're going to be talking about fucking BlizzCon next week.
So definitely we are halfway to evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me. There we go.
Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the show. We are the Surly Nerd, your one-stop shop for geek news that might have flown under your radar over the last week. I'm your host, James, and with me, as always, is the producer of this fine show, Tony.
Hey.
Hector's out this week, having lost his voice, probably screaming at one of the fantastic haunted attractions here in Austin. But he is with us in chat, so he is with us in spirit.
That chat is at twitch.tv/thesilliernerd live Monday 7:30ish Central.
When we're not having technical
When
difficulties.
we're not having technical difficulties.
Yeah. If you're new to our show, hey, welcome. Now, this week we're going to be talking about White Wolf's World of Darkness RPG and how you're probably more familiar with it than you realize. But before that, we have all the news that's fit to rant about for your ears. Don't forget that you can keep connected with us through thesurlynerd.com, where you can follow us on all social media platforms and even donate to the show. Every penny donated goes right back into the show that we make for you every week. With all that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, adventurers of all ages, it's time for The Prelude. I'm going to talk a lot of shit about Bethesda for somebody who's drinking out of a Fallout
you're
cup.
Specifically drinking out of a
Yeah,
power armor cup.
I'm okay with that. I've made my decisions.
Now that I really was beginning more interested in the tiki stuff, like I think we might need more themed drinks.
We probably do.
For
For our show. Yeah. All right.
Because that's an excuse for me to get more themed mugs. Dude, Mondo's released like
They don't get to ruin
6
power
mugs.
armor. You're right. You can't take away from the legacy of Fallout. You can only just shit on the past part of it. We're about to talk about it. So
Honestly, there is one. There we go. I just invented a way to ruin power armor. That Fallout 76. I feel like this is something that will happen, where each piece of the power armor is an additional purchasable, downloadable DLC micro content thing, and it's going to end up costing like $30 to even get power armor anymore.
probably. Who knows? All right. Cool.
Yeah, because fuck Bethesda. Literally. It's not like the fuck kids don't fuck kids thing. No, literally fuck Bethesda. All right. Prelude.
All right, this is the prelude. This is what we've been doing with ourselves this week, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, what's been occupying our free time. Tony, what have you been doing this week?
Well, since Hector's gone, I can't talk about the one thing I wanted to talk about, which was going to see Jojo Rabbit. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that next week. Also, everybody just go watch Jojo Rabbit. That's the quick and dirty
It looks
of
fantastic. Go watch
I really liked that.
It's about kids and Hitler. What's not to love?
I'm not going to tell you what it's about until
The trailer is
the trailer.
kids-
The
it's kids
trailer
and
is
Hitler.
a kid and Hitler.
Yes.
and that is it. That's all I'm going to tell you about it. And just go watch it. You get 1 week, and then we're spoiling it.
Yep. And you're not spoiling it.
It's an additional week. Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't know how World War II ended, then I got news.
I feel like a lot of people don't know how World War X
I
ended.
don't
right
think
now.
people know that World War II happened because we have Nazis again, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. What else did you do that was non-Nazi related this week?
I've been watching some HBO shows. The Deuce is about to wrap up. It's what I've talked about here on a few times.
Yeah.
I really liked. It's about the creation of the porn industry, starting with Second Avenue in New York City, and how that started with.
I've really been wanting to watch that. It looks like
well,
it's fantastic.
it's got 1 episode left that airs tonight.
Yeah, there you go. I
So
can just
it's
binge it.
literally done after this.
That works for me.
Yeah, I've been watching that. I already said, I think last week or so, that one of the other shows just wrapped up. They had God, what it's the football show that I like that had Dwayne The
Ballers?
Rock. Yeah, Ballers. Ballers just wrapped up. I don't know why I can't remember the name of that one. That one's done now.
That one y'all have almost kind of turned me around.
It's
I wanted
just
to watch.
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
not. It's they're very short episodes. And there's like 8 of them a season,
Yeah.
and there's only like 4 or 5 seasons. You're fucking done. It's great stuff. They do have a new series that came out, Watchmen, that is now on its 2nd episode that came out yesterday.
I'm gonna watch that this week and be able to report back on. everything.
So far I very much enjoyed HBO Watchmen. It's just weird, like they're getting rid of so many shows that I really enjoyed. Starting with Game of Thrones, like that's over now, and now all my other shows I like are running done. This is the last season of Silicon Valley, which
Yep.
also just started, and it's fucking hilarious. Spoiler: that show's still funny. Like I don't see there's all these new shows that they're starting, but they're not there yet because they're ending all these current ones, and like. I love HBO, and I'm hoping the stuff that's coming is just as good, and I know it will be. But
Yeah.
I'm sad because I'm losing the stuff that I really like.
I'm interested to watch Watchmen. My 2 homework for assignments for myself for this week are going to be Watchmen and Creepshow, just to check those out.
I haven't started.
Because
I haven't started
Creepshow
yet.
apparently, I didn't have it in the news, but Creepshow did so well that it's like it bumped up the streaming service for Shudder, and it was like the most streamed thing they've ever done ever,
Nice,
basically.
nice.
So yeah, it's probably getting a 2nd season. So I want to check out Creepshow. I want to check out Watchmen, and then I'll kind of talk about Watchmen a little bit more next week. Did you do anything else this week?
I did a double feature of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That it's Quentin Tarantino. I liked it. It was great. I still think The Hateful Eight was a better Tarantino film. I did enjoy this one. It's still Quentin Tarantino's alternate history, but this time it's about the Manson murders. So there you go. It happened. It was fun. Other than that, I followed that up with Zombieland, and I straight up passed out in the last 20 minutes of Zombieland.
Wow. Okay.
Like-
That's a rough review.
I don't even know. Like, a wave of tired hit me, and I was like,
You're becoming an old
out.
man.
Yeah,
You're becoming an old man is what's happening.
The movie we didn't need it. Like halfway through, I was
don't
just
think
sitting there
we-
going
I don't-
like, we didn't need
I don't
this.
think we needed it, but it seems like it's going to be a fun ride.
No, see, no, you're wrong. Like it does have enjoyable moments to it, but overall, it's the same thing that with Rob Zombie going back and fucking with the
House of a
the
Thousand
House of
Corpses.
a Thousand Corpses and all that.
Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, we didn't need 3 from Hell.
Right.
Like I get why it's fun. I get why people were excited for it, and
Right.
it happened, and it's a thing. But we didn't fucking need these. Like just let it. Too much time has passed. To do that. So you either have to like wait a really long time, like in the case of Star Wars, where you're like, okay, we're finally making new Star Wars, and then you have to make apology movies because the 3 you made after that period of time were so fucking awful that now people are mad about the other ones. Fucking, I don't know why everybody's upset about Star Wars all the fucking time.
Hector's in chat right now, and he wants to point out that nothing is ever allowed to be fun.
Nothing is allowed to be fun. Everything is sucking awful.
Okay, so let me see. What did I do on my end? I didn't do a ton this week. I'm starting to get a little bit more free time. So I've been catching up on the new seasons of shows. I finally dived into The Good Place and just binged the fuck out of that. Just trying to catch up on a couple of those other shows that I've been watching.
Yeah, that's on like episode 6 now.
Yeah,
This season.
yeah,
Like,
it was like-
so much has already happened.
Yeah, I know.
The Good Place is so good.
It is. It is so good.
So good.
That is allowed to be fun. I
Yes,
hear.
that is the most fun show I think I watch now.
And
Imagine
so I
that's
don't-
about being in hell.
Yeah, I don't have any like really great things to talk about, except for thanks to Xbox Game Pass, I did download and start playing The Outer Worlds.
You
this
and
week.
literally everybody else that I know.
Yeah.
I'm like the only one that didn't do
and
that.
there's a reason everybody's doing it. We are going to be talking about Bethesda here in a bit in the news itself. But for those of you who are uninitiated, The Outer Worlds is a RPG done by Obsidian Entertainment. They were the ones who did Fallout New Vegas, considered by many to be the best of the 3D Fallouts in existence. We actually sat in one of their panels one year for GDC. That was a lot of fun. They're like really into that old school, like dialogue driven RPG style. Outer Worlds is a mix between Firefly and Fallout in the best way. And then they took the Fallout system and they were like, this is janky and broken. So what would happen if we just, I don't know, fixed it? Like,
Wait,
made it
you're
good.
You're not allowed to fix the back end RPG elements that have glitches in them because that's what people enjoy.
And there's these moments.
Said no one.
There's these moments in the Outer Worlds where you think about all the shit that Bethesda has said over the years, like where they've gone, well, it has so many bugs because it's an open RPG and the worlds are so huge. And then you play the Outer Worlds and you're like, I think they were lying to me. I think Bethesda's been lying to us for years.
Well, see, I don't know if they're using the same game engine that is from the Fallout universe.
Right. So I don't think they're using the same engine, but they're using the same game type. But it does a lot of things really well. One, it actually has sectioned off parts of the map. So it's not like Skyrim where you're just able to walk around everywhere and the world's always open.
And then you get to a cave.
And then a dragon just falls out of the sky because it's glitched.
You literally walked too far.
You go into a zone, the zone loads itself, and then you have free reign on the zone. So it's able to buffer itself a little bit better. So I'm willing to kind of...
So that is more archaic because
I'm willing to eat that
we've had, for quite a while now, the open-ish world where there are buffer loading areas.
Right,
but generally that's like walking through a cave and, oh, look, there's this new area.
Right, but that's like in like a Fallout or Skyrim that take place on a continent.
Yeah.
Like when you've got to like jump between worlds, I mean,
that's your loading.
You spend a lot of time in orbit in Destiny.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like,
and then going between different zones on that planet is a lot of it. There's just caves. You walk through a cave and then, oh, look, there's a new area with new people because that's its buffer
and
zone.
So I think my biggest takeaway from the Outer Worlds, and I'm about 10 hours into it. I'm level 10, about 10 hours in. The dialogue's excellent. You know, some of the character models, I mean, I'm playing on console, to be fair, but the character models aren't all fantastic. They're not all, like, vibrant. But, you know, NPCs are NPCs, so that doesn't bother me too much. But the characters are genuinely interesting. The dialogue options that I have for them, that I've experienced, have been really cool. You know, I just got through this arc in the story where, and minor spoilers, it's in the first like part of the game. A character is attracted to another character, but they have misgivings about approaching the NPC and saying I'm attracted to you because they actually don't enjoy physical contact.
Like, hey, I want to bone you, but not with my penis.
Right. And so that it brings up a really fascinating discussion because that's a side of romantic interest that you don't see represented in the media at all. Like somebody who can have a romantic interest but doesn't necessarily latch onto the physical side of it. And it was just really kind of fascinating and refreshing. And they don't beat you over the head with it either. It's a very just casual thing that happens. And the worlds themselves have been very fascinating. The idea of the corporations running the galaxy, and
that's not too far off.
Right. It seems very realistic that that's kind of the whole way things are going. The weapons are fun. I can't say too much about the mod system because I haven't played with it that much. But my biggest takeaway from the whole thing is I just sat there and I've been playing the Outer Worlds. And for years, I've said to myself, you know, nobody can outdo what Bethesda does. They make Skyrim, they make Fallout, they make these wonderful games that I will always come back to because they're just the only people who make that type of game. And then Obsidian shows up and goes, yeah, so we make that type of game, but, you know, our game works. And also, there's no microtransactions in this game.
No, there aren't.
There's no, like, paid DLC that we know of for right now. There's no add-ons for it. I don't even think there's a special edition for the game.
See, that's what the game, because it is an RPG game. I'm okay if it has like a paid DLC thing because generally that's more story stuff.
Sure, like The Witcher, fantastic.
Yeah,
right?
like if you buy the game and you're like, hey, we added more story, but it's super not part of the main storyline, so it is an additional cost.
Sure,
you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like I get
but
that,
you're not buying horse armor in Outer Worlds.
Yeah, no,
you know, and so I think that. It was just because it was launched at just a normal price, and I think they're really throwing down the gauntlet.
It wasn't even a normal price. Everybody who had Game Pass got it for free for Xbox and PC.
But people are buying it, though. People are buying it by word of mouth. And that is, I would hope, sending a message to the games industry saying, if you just give us a good game, we'll pay for a good fucking game.
Yeah, no, we're willing to give you 60. I said it fucking last week. I'm willing to pay you more money for just a good game.
Yeah.
Without all the extraneous bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you worked on it. You deserve to get paid. You deserve to get paid a living wage. I will give you more money to play the thing. Is just don't nickel and dime me to death because that's not making me livable. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that.
And the last thing, as I kind of wrap this whole thing up, is I want to talk about the setting a little bit. In our Outer Worlds, it does a really good job of striking a balance between being very goofy when it needs to be and being very serious when it needs to be. Something like a Borderlands, you expect it to be really off the rails and goofy at every single moment because that's what Borderlands is.
Yeah, Borderlands is extreme for the sake of being extreme.
Fallout is like dark and depressing because, Fallout.
Yeah, everything sucks because it was nuclear wasteland.
Right, but Outer Worlds strikes a really cool balance of being oppressive while still having moments of levity without the levity being so over the top that it's insufferable. I guess the best word for it. Like I'm on the quest line right now to get a robotic NPC, and I'm in my mind, I've already pictured this is going to be the funniest fucking robot as soon as I boot it up. He's probably going to be like the comedy center of the group once I figure it out, but I haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know. All right, that is everything we've done for the week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going into our news segment in the Weekly Raid.
I feel really bad for y'all that are paying $5 a month for the PC beta stuff, or for the battle or the Xbox, the Game Pass, because I got a year and a half, 2 years of it for $1. Like that's it. It's not $1 a month. It was I gave them $1. They gave me like 2 years of it because that's how much Xbox Live I had acquired.
Oh right, yeah. Well, I'm sorry that people have to pay money to enjoy things, Honey, and you don't.
That's what I get for being a loyal Xbox fan.
Shit on our audience for like not, having 5 million hours of Xbox credits saved up. All right, let's get into the news.
Archer, get the fuck off the table.
It'll be light news.
Archer, get the fuck off. Archer, get the fuck off the table.
Go
away. This isn't playtime. Go be with your mother. Quit touching me. It's fucking cats.
All right.
It's real fucking nice.
Real fucking nice.
You really need to watch Letterkenny.
I try. It's a rough ride.
Must be real fucking nice.
All right. So the beginning of our news will probably be fairly light. We don't need to dive into too much stuff. The last two topics are going to be the Disney and the Bethesda stuff, and we'll probably dive in a little bit.
Yeah, I figured that those two, because they're the heavy things, we're going to be at the end.
Yep.
All right, cool. Mm-hmm. And we're already in the Weekly Raid because I don't have to press the button.
Right.
The Weekly Raid. I don't like that one. I'm deleting that one. That sounded weird. Most of the time, I keep the weird, stupid shit wins I say, but like that one was just very odd. The Weekly Raid.
Hey, adventurers! Welcome back to the show. This is the Weekly Raid. It is our news roundup for the week. So, what do we have to get into? Well, we'll start off with something fun. I think. I've heard people like this whole Spider-Verse concept. I've heard people are very excited about the Spider-Verse. Ever since that movie came out and like 5 people went to go see it.
Yeah. It's a very small independent animation that came out about a Spider-Man's.
Yeah, it's got a cult following. I've heard the Spider-Man guy is getting kind of popular.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a recent thing.
Yeah, it's cool. I liked it whenever I was a kid. Right. So we'll see how.
Yeah, we'll see how it actually goes. No. So in the world of comics, we found out this week that in March 2020 we will be getting a 5-issue limited series for Spider-Man Noir. So Spider-Man Noir, obviously, if you saw Into the Spider-Verse, is an alternate reality Spider-Man. In the animation, it was played by Nick Cage extremely well. That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. It wasn't the way that the character seemed portrayed to me in the comic books of Spider-Man Noir, because I felt he was more serious.
Right. So in the comics of Spider-Man Noir, he was very serious. And recently, maybe just prior to Into the Spider-Verse or maybe just after, they did an arc of Spider-Verse comics in the Marvel Universe where Spider-Man Noir showed up and was killed. So he's gone out of the universe. But there's going to be a new comic coming out in the Marvel Universe. Spider-Man Noir is coming back. We don't know how. We don't know why. But I think this is really...
This is the way they can reboot him into the weird dark but silly dark.
I feel like this is literally the fans' desires being put to paper. People reached out to Marvel and said, we really loved the Spider-Man Noir character. Because a lot of people didn't like the original books. In fact, they weren't one of the best Noir of all the Noir books. It was good, but it wasn't great. And I feel like Spider-Man Noir is a character that's going to be growing and evolving as more and more writers get to watch like Into the Spider-Verse and get into that character, it's almost like the original character concept was cool, but not anything that the general public would latch onto.
Yeah.
Whereas what fans are doing,
Spider-Man Noir was definitely a creation for people who liked Spider-Man and wanted more specific Spider-Man,
right? But
oddness.
also liked noir things very specifically. So I feel like this is just a fan, like the fans reached out and said, hey, we really love this character. What can we do with them? And Marvel's like, oh, we killed that character. Or they're like, oh, well, that sucks. Like, but if you give us money, we'll bring him back.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, because I feel like if a character's going to grow and evolve, like at least he found his niche somewhere, right? I'm super excited to see what they're going to be doing with this. It's going to be fun, and it's spoopy season, so noir is in.
I'm interested. Just if nothing else, like it'll be cool to pick up a trade.
I think it will be better than the original Spider-Man Noir. I would place a bet right now and say it's going to be better than the original Spider-Man.
Okay, that's fine.
Once in a while in the news, I like to put something in here that's kind of a for me. I try to get a for everybody when I can, but today I've got a for me. Back when I was a kid, one of my first PC games that I ever played, in fact, one of the first CD-ROM games, because I'm that fucking old, that I ever played, was a game called The Seventh Guest. And The Seventh Guest was one of the first full motion video games. This is pre-Myst, like barely pre-Myst, but pre-Myst. And the concept was you show up at a mansion, there are ghosts walking around, you're trying to understand the story of how they died and what happened to them. And to do that, you would just partake in elaborate puzzles. One of the puzzles I remember from my youth, to kind of tell a story about this, the computer in our house was in my mother's, in my stepdad's room. And so I had very limited time to be on the PC. And so I was stuck on this puzzle. And so I saved my game, went to bed. And the puzzle that it gives you in The Seventh Guest is a chessboard. And it says, the hint is a queen is deadly from every direction. And the concept is that you have to get 8 queens onto a chessboard without them taking each other. So this really bothered me. So instead of going to bed like I should have been because I had school the next day, I got out my chessboard, took out a bunch of pawns, grabbed some string, and figured the puzzle out.
Figured it out.
Busted into my parents' bedroom and was like, I figured it out. I need to finish the puzzle right now. My parents, bless them for being so tolerant of their child, let me go in, finish the puzzle, and go about my evening.
The game is saved now. Now I can go away.
Game is saved. It's fine. So there's a lot of really cool puzzles like this in The Seventh Guest. A lot of them are chess related, but a lot of them are just kind of logic puzzles. And there was a sequel to it, The 11th Hour, which I also played. Fantastic. It continues the story of the doll maker who created the house. He's kind of the evil force behind the mansion.
Something I've learned in my life is that if you make dolls, you're fucking evil.
You're probably evil.
It's like a 100% chance that you're evil.
Yeah.
Nobody that makes dolls is not evil.
And so for years we've been hearing about a rumored fan project called the 13th Doll, because Trilobite Games doesn't exist anymore. But they tried to get a Kickstarter going for this game called the 13th Doll. They were going to get the original cast together. They were going to do it exactly, the way that it was done back in the day. Green screen, CG backgrounds, really cheesy, but it was just going to be a continuation of it. And we haven't heard anything about this fan game, but we found out this week that on October 1st, right around the corner from when this gets launched, it's going to be coming out. They just out of nowhere dropped this. So go onto Steam.
October 31st.
Yeah,
so
October 31st.
On Halloween, we get the new spoopy game.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
It's a spoopy puzzle game.
No, I like that.
And it's not for everybody.
This works because in our new setup, the computer recording area is right next to the front door. Mm-hmm. So on Halloween, you can play your game and then also give children candy.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic idea.
You can do that. I will be probably not here.
Yeah, probably not here. Okay, so let's move on from stuff that I love into general love for everybody. Death Stranding, real briefly, we don't have to stick around and talk about this too much, but Death Stranding is going to be coming to PC. There's been a lot of news about this lately, and I kind of want to reach out to our audience right now and let you know, yes, we are aware that there were so many news articles over the last couple of weeks of, is Death Stranding coming to PC? Maybe it's not. It was removed. PC was removed from the marketing for it. So obviously it's not going to be on PC. There's a reason why we deliver the news to you when we do, and we take our time with some things, because a lot of articles out there are very conflicting about what's going to be in a game, not in a game, what's rumor and speculation, what is actual fact. And we can confirm, and what we are doing right now is confirming that in 2020, Death Stranding will be coming to the PC. But we haven't talked about all the other, like, is it coming to PC? Maybe it's not. Oh, it's been removed from what Steam Marketplace.
Yeah, no, because it was all over the place.
It was.
What was happening. And seemed like there was an internal conflict at Sony where they didn't know how to approach put the game out also on PC, because it breaks the way that Sony handles their exclusives.
But we're starting to see more of this out of Sony, and it's rare. I think Journey maybe came to the PC recently. You may have to fact check me on that. But Death Stranding coming to the PC, is Sony wanting to start playing with other people?
I mean, I would like to see it come to Xbox Game Pass for Windows.
Okay, well, I feel like
I'm just saying
that's
that'd be
an
cool.
ideal universe.
That'd be really cool if they're like, that would be like the cool handshake.
The problem would be is that I picture in this ideal world where Death Stranding comes to the Xbox Marketplace, you're like, I'm so happy this game came out, but also fuck Sony. So they can't win with you. They can't. They could give you The Last of Us right now on the Xbox Marketplace. So you're like,
I don't want it on Xbox. I just want, because since now we have the Xbox, we have the Game Pass on PC. Right. I'm like, cool. So put some of these fun games on there. Why not give it a shot? Because what are your options? It's either Steam, which is where it's gonna go because it's fucking Steam, or it's gonna be on like the Epic Store. And maybe we don't put anything ever on the Epic Store again.
Okay, so they do have 2 games on the Epic Store right now that are PlayStation exclusives. Thank you, Hector, for fact checking us. That would be Journey, and he says along with the David Cage games. So that includes like Fahrenheit. It's called Indigo Prophecy, I think, in the States. I played the GOG version. That includes things like Detroit Become Human, stuff like that.
So cool. So that means there's a good chance it is going to the Epic Game Store, which means have fun infecting your computer with Chinese spyware because you wanted to play a game.
Hopefully it doesn't stay with the Epic Game Store. All right. We are pretty riled up. We're pretty sassy. And I feel like we're in a really good space to let Tony kind of rant for a minute. I'm really curious about this next topic. So the creator of Black Lightning, he is a DC character. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's got a show on the CW. Absolutely fantastic show. It is exactly what it sounds like. It is a really cool black superhero who has lightning powers.
Yeah,
that's what
black
it
guy
is.
with lightning powers.
Black Lightning. Black Lightning has been becoming more and more popular over the last few years because of the CW show. And actually, it's just had really great writers. There have been some really, really great writers diving into the DC space and writing for that character. And the creator of Black Lightning, Tony Isabella, was talking on Facebook this week because I guess people were like inviting him to like join like Batman groups or things on, join our group on Facebook. And all of the groups they were asking to join was like, DC Heroes, Batman is Legend, or whatever groups he was being invited to always had Batman in the title somewhere. So he was very outspoken both on Facebook and Twitter about his feelings about Batman. And Tony, I'm curious about your opinion about it.
Okay.
I'll give you the quote here. Isabella said, "Here's a tip. Don't ask me to join groups or visit pages that have Batman in their titles. He was once my favorite comics hero. Now I consider him one of the most toxic and the ruination of DC Comics. DC hurts their other characters by making Batman the center of their universe."
I mean, I need more justification for why he feels that Batman is that awful. I mean, it's because I don't really care enough about Batman.
So a lot of it comes down to the fact that DC places such a great emphasis on Batman.
Well, yeah, because Superman became not a fan favorite anymore.
He's an artifact.
Yeah, and that's the reason why they went away from Superman and they latched onto Batman. Batman just became the new Superman. You give him more ridiculous powers. You give him more ridiculous storylines. It's not even just that. It's that it feels like comic books than anybody else.
Right. You give him 5 comics. You give him top billing and everything, and it makes sense. Right, like you look at like the way the Dark Knight sold, even Batman in 1989 back in the day, right? Like that was a big thing. Batman, everybody. If you have never seen anything Batman related, I could say the word Batman right now, and you can either picture him or his backstory. It's in our DNA at this point. Like a new child is brought into this world, and you're like Batman, and that kid's like, yeah, parents died, and his name's Bruce Wayne, and he's got a Robin, and there's this guy named the Joker, and you're like, wow, that's weird. You've never read Batman in your life. But
weirdly, also go watch watch Joker. It's fucking phenomenal.
Right. But his big problem is that DC spends so much time making Batman their golden child that he feels like other characters are pushed to the wayside. Other characters are not allowed to develop and grow and really have a chance to like be in the spotlight because DC's like, Batman, that's where Batman goes.
Yeah.
It's a very dark spotlight, but he's there.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly when he came up with Black Lightning and the rest of that alternate DC universe in the 90s was kind of there to replace. It was the giant like indie boom of the time.
Yeah.
And DC was like, how do we get that money? So they allowed him to create basically his own separate section of DC where he could do things like have Black Lightning, and all those characters had their own comic books, and it was really good stuff, and I really liked it, but it didn't resonate as much with a regular nerd guys.
White people readers.
Yeah, I was trying to find the nicest way to say it. It's like a bunch of stuffy old white dudes really didn't like it.
Yeah.
But whenever you looked at the subject matter, it was because it wasn't relatable to them. And I get that. And DC took a chance and tried something to make it relatable to a different audience. And it did resonate with that different audience, but it didn't resonate with the ones that took up more, gave them more money, so they just canceled it.
Yeah.
And whenever you look at the two characters kind of side by side, you can see where Batman, being this billionaire playboy, is kind of the exact opposite of what he was creating.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
I mean, watch the show Black Lightning. It goes into some deep stuff. If you like Luke Cage, I would recommend Black Lightning, by the way.
Yeah, or just any of the CW shows. It's just fucking good.
Yeah,
it's just more grounded than the other CW shows.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Weirdly, but there's also like people with superpowers. Yes. I don't know why I can say that, but it was the comic book world that he created was really interesting. And to the point where now it has its own TV show that's now on its third season. I did not expect it to go to its third season.
I didn't,
honestly, because I watched it when it first came out, and I was like, "Cool, I like this. No one else is going to watch this," because it was the show that came on like after Arrow, and that was like nobody really generally gave a shit. It wasn't tied into anything else. It was like another CW show based on a DC property, but not tied into the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, why does this exist? And then you watch it, you're like, oh, it exists for a purpose because it's a fucking great story. I just kind of wish it was tied into the rest of the Arrowverse.
Well, I mean, rumor has it.
Yeah, well, it's a good chance it'll happen in
Crisis on Infinite Earths,
because it's those universes are allowed to cross over during that point in time.
Yeah.
Which I guess if you're gonna do it then, but then go back to leaving it alone at this point. Either way, his dislike of Batman is totally justifiable. The character of Bruce Wayne is a piece of shit. The character of Batman is a piece of shit. And he's always written differently depending on who's writing him. Is he a detective? Is he just a guy that beats up on people? What the fuck's going on with him?
Yeah, I really feel like his argument against Batman isn't that Batman inherently is bad as a character. It's that DC's obsession with him and making him, when you see DC Comics, you see Batman. DC Comics, the logo might as well just have two bat ears on it.
Bat ears up on the top
like it just
of
should at this point. And Superman used to be that way for a long time. I just think that he really wants other superheroes to have the time to shine. And I don't think that, and this is me speaking for him, and I'm apologize. He definitely did not say any of this, but I feel like as I've read some of his comments, it feels like if you're a really talented, in air quotes, writer, one that's you're going to make millions of dollars selling a book. You're Chip Zdarsky's right now.
Yeah,
you get put on Batman. You don't get put on Black Lightning, even if you want to do Black Lightning, because Batman. Because
now you're not worth that character.
You're doubling down and saying successful writer, successful book. This is what you get. Look at DC Black Label. DC Black Label has been out for over a year now, and 99.9% of the DC Black Label's books that are out are Batman based. It's either Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn. That's what you have right now. Yeah. There is like a Wonder Woman book.
This is one of the problems where they said we're like, oh, we're getting rid of Vertigo. We're making this Black Label line that's supposed to be kind of be our new Vertigo thing. Right. And it's like, cool, what's going to be on it? Nothing but Batman shit. So it's not the DC Black Label. It's DC Batman label.
But I don't know if that is DC's fault. We know that Constantine's going to be coming to DC Black Label soon. And by the way, if you don't know, DC Black Label is the adult line of DC books. It's where they can show Batman penises and stuff. Except they censored that eventually. But I mean, we know
Harley Quinn's boobs are way uncensored.
We know that Constantine is coming to DC Black Label. We know that other people are going to be stepping up and doing things in that universe.
I think Jared Way's stuff's coming to Black Label.
I think that what happened with all these Batman books that we saw in DC Black Label weren't necessarily an initiative by DC to say Batman's going to be the first and most successful thing, so we got to put that in Black Label. I honestly think that when they asked the writers, hey, if you had to write an adult version of some DC thing, what would you want to write? And
everybody went Batman.
Everybody went Batman. They're like,
yeah, because it's the one character that is allowed to go dark in the current DC universe. And that's the only one you can tell dark stories with, because
Right.
for some reason that's just what's associated with Batman.
Right.
I don't know why I was doing
And
your
honestly, Hector's right. You know, DC really overuses Batman a lot. He's the golden child, and I see completely where this writer's coming from on that. Maybe, hopefully, someday Black Lightning will get that time to shine, because he's a really fascinating and a very good character, both in comic and TV form. So definitely go support that show. Seriously, I want to see some more seasons of it. Let's talk a little bit about Steam. Man, it's been a while since we've dived into something new and exciting that Steam's been doing. Oftentimes we talk about the bad things, like the millions of games on there that you can't slog through, like 20 million hentai games being made on it per day.
Yeah.
But it seems like Steam's trying something new it's good. I don't know.
I mean, the last thing that they tried was like Steam Link, and they tried like the Steam OS.
I'm nervous saying
and they had the
this.
Steam controller.
Right.
And don't they have a VR headset now?
So
like they keep trying weird new stuff, but then we keep going, yeah, that's not something we want though.
So they're doing the Steam Remote Play beta right now. And this is a feature that lets you play local co-op and split screen games online. So if a game is only like split screen or local co-op, you can play it online through Steam Remote Play. But that's not the big part of it, because that's just adding multiplayer components to pre-existing games. The really cool part about this that I'm hoping that they keep, and I sound nervous about this because I am.
Yeah, you're very quiet right now.
Steam Remote Play, at least in the beta, allows you to co-op with somebody wherever, across the country, across the globe, but your friend doesn't have to own a copy of the game.
See, that part is interesting. They're not having to own the copy of it, because I don't think anything currently is like that. Sony has one.
Right, there's one game in Sony that does.
Yeah.
The prison game.
I don't remember the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it right now. But yeah, the concept is, if you're in California and I'm in Texas and I want to play, Divinity with you.
Yeah.
You don't have a copy. You can install and play
a game
without having the license, because I've given you an invitation to play it.
Okay, so this is similar to the way they do like kind of like their family sharing thing, where if you basically give people your account like info login thingy, you can share your game library.
It doesn't quite work like that. So what it does is it's using a cloud streaming service, not unlike what we're seeing with like xCloud or what Stadia is wanting to do. So I don't believe that there's a physical install that's required. So basically, if I want to play Castle Crashers, I load up my instance of Castle Crashers, and I invite you off of my Steam list. You don't have to install anything because you don't own Castle Crashers, but you can come into my instance of Castle Crashers and play it with me.
Okay, that sounds all well and good. Now that you're explaining it more, that you're not installing the game locally,
right?
That I am now basically remoting into your PC and playing the multiplayer aspect on one system. This is a great idea, but much like Google Stadia, is going to have horrible lag and is not going to work the way everybody thinks it's going to work. Well, since it's Steam, it's really not going to be that good.
Right. Latency will always be an issue, right? Like, I can't play with a friend of mine in Michigan that lives in a cornfield and has, like, barely DSL level connection.
Yeah.
For playing with somebody out in Brooklyn that, has a good internet connection, and I've got Google Fiber.
It's probably not going to be a problem in certain cases.
Right.
But overall, this is not, at least in the United States, this is not an idea that's going to work well. And that's mostly just because our infrastructure fucking sucks.
And I think the reason that Steam's being so quiet about it is because there is a war for this kind of streaming platform going on right now, and they don't want to throw their hat in the ring for it.
Oh yeah, totally.
They're putting the beta out there. They want to test it. They want to see what they can do with it. But that doesn't mean they're going to come out at E3 and be like, "Hey, by the way, this is the new feature that's going live right now. You can play it with your friends."
Honestly, I would expect it kind of maybe at E3 next year.
Sure.
Mostly because this is around the same time frame that Google did their Assassin's Creed testing, where they're like, "Hey, just go play this game in your browser and you get it for free."
Yeah, no.
And everybody's like, "Cool. Is there anything aside from Assassin's Creed?" And everybody went, "No." And they went, "Okay, we're not doing that then, because Assassin's Creed fucking sucks."
I hear some people like it.
Some people like it, and they're fucking stupid.
Some people have creeds for asses.
Yes. Oh, I hate you. So they tested it, and then like, oh look, E3 comes around and Stadia comes out, and it's literally that same product.
And they're like, by the way, ours is free.
Yeah.
That is such a way to fuck over Stadia. Oh man, I didn't even think about that. That is fucking checkmate. If Steam's just like, yeah, that thing that you're paying all that like subscription for, it's just here.
Well, see, there's one exception with that though. So the way Stadia is going to work is you can do it like on your tablet and shit.
Right.
If you can connect a controller to it, you can play a video game.
You're gonna tell me Steam's not gonna bust out that shit?
Nah, they're probably going to implement it very poorly, and it's not going to work because Steam is very bad about adding in any sort of connectivity at all.
I don't know. I hear the Oculus is absolutely fantastic.
That Facebook makes that.
The 5 people, or no, I'm sorry, is it the Rift?
Whatever one that
HTC?
Steam. Steam has the Vive, not Vive. That's the Sony one. HTC Rift or some shit that they work in conjunction with another company because they don't make it themselves. But
if this sounds convoluted to you,
I don't fucking understand how VR headsets work. This is welcome for bad fucking radio.
Welcome to the world of like VR headsets and why they don't sell. Yeah, it's the vibe. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a very fascinating concept. I'm glad Steam's exploring it. Do we know if anything's going to be coming of it? Who knows? But I like the fact they're opening this up to the beta, asking the public to try it out so they can get data, get metrics, and try and understand what people want to do. Do people want to play, Castle Crashers or Divinity or something like that, off of an instanced game? And I think all signs point to yes.
Or play a game that had co-op but did not have online multiplayer co-op, where it was like literally a 2-player game where you sat on a couch, but now this game is on your PC, and you can be like, hey, come couch co-op this game with me, but we can be in 2 different places. That part is really cool.
Yeah.
And you hope that the latency is not going to fuck it over or anything.
Fingers crossed.
But
we know that it will, but
yeah, we do know that it will.
This is in beta right now, so we'll report
and
back on it.
in the long term, we don't know how this is going to work outside of the PC space. If this is just a PC to PC thing, that's great and all, but all the competitors for what is going to be in the same general market are going beyond just PCs.
Right. And, and what Brooklyn's saying in chat is it's the same kind of deal as what we're seeing kind of with Stadia. It's this idea that, one user boots up the instance or the one with the license, then everybody connects to it, and that's how you play. So that's the very simplified version of it. Will it work because of our current infrastructure? We don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, no, this is some great ideas for about 30 years in the future.
Right. Okay, let me tell you about not good ideas. As we are getting ready to wind down the news, we do have 2 last things that are very important for us to talk about. And the first one is a little bit rough because we cannot get through this episode if we do not talk about the $100 annual subscription that Bethesda released this week for Fallout 76. The game that upon its release was already broken, didn't have human NPCs, was barely even a game, really, when you think about it. And now they have the audacity to put out a $100 annual subscription for this game. Now, mind you, but just before I even get to the subscription, remember that Fallout 76 has been, as of recent weeks, adding in features that fans have requested, like a refrigerator to store your food, as a paid item. Things that Bethesda promised, yeah, we're going to make that for you guys, and then immediately made it and then charged you for it.
I distinctly remember whenever they announced Fallout 76 at E3, because they had that ridiculous weird stage setup where there were 2 sets of audiences on either side of these weird double screens thing. It was a very odd setup. That they said, we're only going to put microtransactions of cosmetics into this game. That everything will be purely cosmetic that we add to it, and there's no need to ever purchase anything unless you want to change the way something looks. Mm-hmm. And this is super not any of that.
Then they put in weapon repair kits, which obviously does change the dynamics of things like PvP in this game.
Yeah, no, especially when they can get repaired higher than what the in-game ability to repair something is. So that's obviously a pay-to-win aspect.
Yep.
And then now you're putting in this idea of basically keeping your food or fresher or whatever supplies in a refrigerator, because the game does have like an in-game timetable, so shit goes bad, which is weird because it's Fallout 76. Everything should be radioactive and last for 1.5 billion years.
So with this $100 subscription, if you decide to pay for it, please don't pay for this. Please, for the love
Super,
of God,
just do not ever,
do
don't even pay for, literally return your copy of Fallout 76 right now. Like, just yell until they give you your money back.
With this $100 annual subscription, you get access to private servers. So let's just start with private servers. Something that was promised during the initial E3 presentation of Fallout 76 from the get-go. Without you paying extra, you would have access to private servers. But now you have to pay for private servers. And we are getting reports that the private servers aren't even that. They are recycled, unused servers. People are logging into a private server and finding things already rated and things already taken.
Cool. This is awesome. I love this idea because it was so think about this. They created a $100 add-on for them to resell the server space back to the people who'd already been on those servers. Yeah. This is brilliant. I mean, mind you, this is the worst
capitalism.
thing. Yeah, no,
this is peak capitalism. This is Outer Worlds level of capitalism. Outer Worlds is good. Play Outer Worlds. So aside from just the private servers, you got an exclusive in-game item, the survival tent, which is kind of they call it like a makeshift base. It's a fast travel point and has some like unique outfits and emotes.
You can like drop this down anywhere, and it's a game save, and it's your fucking your repairs and everything. It's your literally your town wherever you go.
Right.
So that sounds like super cheating.
And inside of the survival tent, you have a thing to store your spare scrap and stuff.
Yep.
Except for the moment this item came out that you paid $100 for this item, maybe you had all these legendaries sitting in your backpack that you were like, man, I don't use these very often, but I want to save them. I've got the survival tent. I'm going to toss them all into here. Done. And then the moment you went into a different server, all of those items disappeared.
Because they're in the old server?
No. Well, we don't know. We don't know how it works in the code. We just know the thing that is always supposed to be storing your items
doesn't store any of your items.
Doesn't store your things.
So the thing that was supposed to stick with you everywhere doesn't stick with you anywhere.
Right.
It's like the opposite of like those old Visa card commercials.
Yes.
Like
you were showing your age.
You can take this anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, guess where this doesn't work? Literally anywhere. This doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't work at all.
No, this is great. This is great. The more that Bethesda can do to literally kill themselves, because that's what they're actively doing. Every moment that they keep updating this game or any of their games with these predatory bullshit with broken fucking pieces is one more foot in their fucking coffin.
And there is a list of bugs, by the way, just based around this $100 add-on. And I didn't put it in the notes because I don't want to go through all of it, because the amount of bugs
sounds like a lot.
Based on this Fallout First is what it's called. It's called Fallout First, and you pay $100 and fucking that's what it's called.
Also, dumb name.
It's a dumb name.
It's a dumb name for a game that's already Fallout 76.
It is.
But now I get Fallout First 76.
Right, it's a membership. The membership is called Fallout First. Except for one thing. If you are going to put out a new, like anything within your game that has a fancy title like Fallout First,
yeah,
wouldn't one of the first things you think to do is maybe secure the domain for that particular name?
Generally,
you would think that's a logical idea. So if somebody Googles Fallout First,
yeah,
they want your game. You
want that website to be the first thing that pops up. You want your Twitter, your Facebook, and your fucking website to be the #1 searched thing off of that one name.
Yeah, except
for copyright them way the fucking in advance.
Except for the fact that the players are so angry about this $100 like annual pass thing that somebody figured out that the domain falloutfirst.com wasn't taken by Bethesda and then promptly bought it.
Nice.
I'm not going to repeat what is said about Bethesda on this particular website, but it's definitely worth you going and checking out. Maybe don't do it at work. Not that there's penises or anything, but the language is fairly vulgar.
I just honestly imagined a like a 90s style GIF of a trash can on fire, and that was it.
With like a GeoCities, like work in progress.
Yeah.
No, and there's been interviews with the person who designed the falloutfirst.com website. And I'm not talking about like interviews like a podcast of a couple people interviewed him. No, the fucking BBC has interviewed this person.
I hear that they are a very large organization.
I hear they've got a few followers.
Yeah, they might have been around for a while.
And they asked the creator of the website, like, why did you do this? And he goes, because I was somebody who bought it in the game originally, and basically I've been fucked over again and again and again, and I want to have a dialogue with Bethesda. I want to be able to sit down with the creators and go, basically, why do you
keep fucking me?
Like, why do you hate us? Like, I want to have that dialogue and understand what their mentality is.
Yeah.
Like he's genuinely a person who's upset by the direction Bethesda has.
Sometimes you have to do these things to get the creators' attention, because they're doing things that you don't necessarily like supporting China and the Hong
And
Kong.
we would be
Still
remiss.
mad about that.
We would be remiss not to mention the fact that this has had in-game repercussions. Not in-game repercussions like a million people have suddenly stopped playing Fallout 76 because the people who are playing it are still apparently playing it. For some reason, Outer Worlds is out, guys. Go play Outer Worlds.
All right, so some people like me buy one game a year,
Right.
and if you don't play that game, then you're out the one game you bought.
So what's been happening is there's been in-game protests. You can go online, you can find video of people making little signs because you can like make like little neon signs and stuff in Fallout 76 that say like, you know, like fuck Bethesda or like boycott Bethesda, whatever. Not only that, but there are people within Fallout 7. And this is hardcore, right? This is fucking hardcore what I'm about to say.
Okay.
There are people within Fallout 76 that are going around as groups looking for people who have the little tag over their head that show that they're a Fallout first purchaser and endlessly attacking them. This is the wasteland at its
They're
finest.
grieving them because of reasons.
Yeah, they're sitting there going, hey, like we saw you dropped $100 for this. That's why you have the little icon above your head. Get the fuck out of this game.
I mean, I love that. That is totally something that I would do. Like, if the game was free right now, I would go and log on to
Right.
make a
I
character
would just fucking
just
do
to
that.
grieve people that bought into it because fuck you and fuck this game and fuck the whole fucking situation.
Right.
But I really don't have that kind of time investment about something that I really don't want to play to begin with.
Right. And so you may ask yourself, how did I get here? Well,
I generally ask, where is my beautiful wife?
that's very good. Very good. I appreciate that. So how did Bethesda get here? And that's hard to say. I mean, that's a topic for a boss room all its own. And it's something that I want all of our listeners to really think about because I do want to have this discussion, a deeper discussion about how Bethesda got to this point. But when we are looking to the future of Bethesda, the one thing that we have to look at is the fact that over this last week, Bethesda acquired a new studio, and it's called Alpha Dog. It's out of Canada. This is a studio that specifically makes mobile games. So if you want any idea,
Diablo 4 confirmed?
Don't you have phones? If you want to know the direction that Bethesda is going in, and it hurts my heart to say this, it's like talking about Blizzard all over. This hurts me because Bethesda was a studio. There was trust in the Bethesda name. And now I hear things like this. They're acquiring this mobile developer, and we can see if you do not see the writing on the walls, you're blind. If you blindly go in, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be that person. I'm never this person on the show. But if you just blindly go in and buy Skyrim 6 after all the shit they've done to you, like,
You deserve to get Skyrim 6.
yeah, you deserve to get Skyrim 6. I'm sorry. Like, it's going to be broken.
It's going to be Skyrim 76. but
Right.
yeah.
It's going to be Skyrim 76, and dragons are going to fall out of the sky, and like people are
It's
going
going
to
to be awful, and it's going to be on your cell phone.
Right.
That's the reason why I brought up the Diablo 4's on your fucking phone thing. This is exactly what Blizzard did. They're like, hey, you like Diablo, right? Here, cell phone games. Nothing but cell phone games from now on.
Right.
Bethesda's going to do the exact same shit. They're like, hey, y'all like these things, right? We've been putting Skyrim on everything. We even make jokes about it now because we're in on it.
You put Skyrim in your toaster.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? It's funny when Bungie makes a promotional movie for Destiny that's about the moon's haunted meme because they're in on the joke.
Yeah, I saw
You know
the
what's-
advertisement for
right.
that on YouTube, and I straight was like, ha, that's great. They did it.
You know what's not funny is Bethesda making fun of itself for being horrible human beings.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Right.
There's a
Todd
difference.
Howard walking out on stage and be like, I'm surprised you guys are still here. That's my best Todd Howard impression. I'm sorry. Like, it just being, hey guys, I can't believe you're still here.
I don't think any of us are very good at doing a
you're like-
giant douchebag impression.
Right, because I don't have that much money coming out of my asshole. Yeah, it's just upsetting.
Really weird place to put your wallet. Most people go to the side of the butt.
When you're that rich,
You just gotta shove it in the
You
butthole.
just shove it in the butthole. Like when you're, it's Scrooge McDuck.
I'm changing the name of the
piles money.
podcast. You just got to shove it in the butthole.
Shove it in the butthole. Either way, please do not play Fallout 76. Everything that they
Or use your prison wallet as an
or
actual
use your
wallet.
prison wallet as an actual wallet. He says while drinking out of a Power Armor tiki cup. I support old Fallout, not new Fallout. Okay. So we have one last topic to talk about for the news this week before we get into our main topic, which is the World of Darkness, which I'm very excited to talk about. But Tony, I needed you here on the panel today before we get into this because it's a very sensitive topic. So there is a movie studio at the Drexel Theater is what it's called. It's an independent venue in Columbus, Ohio, and every year they do horror movie marathons. Right?
Yeah,
Makes sense?
it's fucking
it's spooky
Halloween.
time.
Yeah,
It's
it's
spooky
exactly
time.
no. To compare this to something locally here in Austin, out next month for November is Hanksgiving. The Alamo Drafthouse is doing Tom Hanks movies.
Oh, nice.
So I'm
That's cute.
super gonna go watch like The Burbs and like A League of Their Own in theaters again because that's what I want to do, and we can do that because these movies have been out for a while.
Right. It doesn't cost much to rent them.
Yeah, and by renting
For
them,
a
it's
theater
literally
to
what the
rent them.
theater is doing. They are renting these for a limited engagement. They're not going to have them for weeks at a time. They're going to have it for like a week. They show them a certain number of times, and they send them back, whether that be digitally or in some cases the actual prints coming back out. But most of the time, it's digital. And even in some cases, it's web streaming. They literally just like stream a 4K video over, and that's how Fathom Events does all that bullshit.
Right.
But this is it's common in the industry to take older films and kind of do film festival-esque things. Just like think about Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's on at everybody's local theater, no matter what.
If you live in a major,
times throughout the
I was
year.
gonna say, if you're in a major
Even in a small
metropolitan
town,
area.
it'll travel around to different small town areas, and every couple months you get to go do that thing. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. These ideas where when you go to a movie house and you see like a something you haven't seen in a very long time, you're like, oh fuck, they're playing Land Before Time.
They just played Ghostbusters.
Why not? Ghostbusters that was an additional recut of Ghostbusters as well because it had other footage. Let's not get into that.
That was very
bag of nails. Yeah, no, it's one of the things I wanted to go do is go see Ghostbusters.
I did too.
Actually, the copy of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that I went and saw was the extended cut version of it because apparently that was also a thing that needed to be out there.
So this kind of director of the like 24-hour science fiction and horror marathon over at the Drexel Theater tried to get a couple movies for his marathon this year. The original 1976 The Omen and the 1986 remake of The Fly. So these were Fox titles. They were
They're
produced
literally like the quintessential films for a horror thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Like obviously The Omen, it's one of the ones that like helped create the horror movies that we know to this day. And then the good version of The Fly, not the
the good version of
1950s
Fly.
that is crap, but the good version of Fly is just an amazing fucking fucked up weird ass movie and deserves to be in that place.
And so Disney came out and basically said, so we're not going to let you do that and not give you access to those movies. And he's like, that's weird. These are old fucking movies. Why would you do that? Now, long story short, there's a very fantastic detailed article online on Variety about the minutia of what we're about to talk about. And if you're fascinated by it at all, go read it. But it's a very, very long read. The summary of it is that since Disney's acquisition of Fox, they are now taking old Fox movies and putting them into the quote unquote Disney vault.
Actually, it is a true vault.
Right.
They actually have a building
Right,
that houses
but-
the original copies of all the films.
and I
It is a
believe you,
vault.
but in my mind, I picture it being a big animated wall like in Toontown, and you have all these happy things behind it from all the Disney characters, and now you're about to shove all these horrific like Fox monsters into that vault, and good luck, Cinderella, because the Queen Alien just showed up.
I mean, while I do like your idea, and it is great because I didn't think of it, and it's fucking wonderful, and I appreciate that. That was some good shit. Like I can see it in my mind right now. I always envision it kind of the same way. Imagine a giant bank vault, and then just like just rows and rows going back of film canisters,
Right.
And that's where the movies go to live. That's where you keep them
Mine
safe.
is much more amusing.
Mine is way more realistic.
Yours is much more practical. Yes.
Yes, minus the giant fucking vault door. Because why?
So-
If you ran out of there carrying 2 fucking film reel cases, that is okay. 1/6 of a movie, and also that's all you can carry. Those things are fucking heavy. You're not getting a full film.
Right.
They're gonna catch you before you can even get a full movie out of those fucking doors.
So this caused some problems. This was a shakeup in just the industry in general, finding out that Disney's putting all these old movies into the vault.
Yeah, and we've come to custom to the Disney Vault because we were kind of raised on it. We were raised on
it.
We were raised on VHS and then later DVD. And that was something that Disney did. They said, hey, we're only going to release these movies in a small batch for a limited amount of time. And then once it goes away, you have to wait until we decide to bring it back out of the vault. And this has legit been the only way to get a lot of their movies for a very long time.
Right.
And if you wanted to own a personal copy of them, if you didn't get it during this window, you either had to go to another party to purchase it from them, or you had to wait.
Right.
Well, we don't live in those days anymore. We live in the world of online streaming.
Right.
So we do kind of still have that because of online streaming. We have the rights going back and forth between different places, or having limited rights for a certain amount of time. Let's say you can only have this series on Netflix for 6 months, and then it's going to go over to Hulu, and then it's going to go over to blah, and then eventually it'll make its way back. And you get that people were freaking out because Friends and The Office were going away from Netflix recently, and because they don't own those,
right?
They were just rights that they acquired for a limited amount of time.
Hector makes a good point in chat. The internet's a thing, and the scarcity of media is kind of a bullshit concept.
It super is, but as I just said, it's not completely bullshit though because of the way the contracts work. Now, with the exception of the way Disney Plus is.
Right. Because
Disney Plus is going to be their own release platform, there is no other studio that they have to wait and get the rights for. They own it.
So you think that that's the reason Disney is putting things into the vault, so it can figure out how it wants to divvy out those properties
over an extended period of time, because historically that's what Disney does. They vault things to give you the fear of missing out. Before we had FOMO, Disney knew how to do that.
Right.
They did that years ago, and it was if you don't go buy your copy of Cinderella, you don't get to have it for another 15 years.
The commercials actually said
this is going away for 15 years. You're fucked.
It goes into the vault after this. Go buy it now.
And they were very adamant. They're like, you have up until this date to buy this copy, and after that, no more.
Yeah.
And you can still rent it probably if it's at your local rental store, but then Blockbuster went away, and how do you do that? Oh wait, you go to Netflix. Oh, they don't have the rights to that. Who has the rights to that? Oh, Disney does. Ah, fuck. We got to wait until they want to give it back to us.
Right.
So,
and to be fair, rental stores used to have to pay an exorbitant amount for films.
Oh, they also the VHS copies that these stores had were actually much higher quality.
Right.
That's the reason why they were $150, $300, because the quality of that tape, it could be gone through over and over and over again without degradation. Unlike the cheap, 5-pack for $1.50 VHS tapes, those are more we hope it works more than once because it's not good quality plastic that we're using here.
All right, so let's get some final opinions about this whole Disney thing, because obviously our chat's fuming about it right now. They feel like it's completely unacceptable. Tony, you understand why they're doing it.
I get it. Am I happy that they're doing this? No. Do I understand it? Yeah, because this is standard operating procedure that Disney put in place years ago with their own existing properties and have been doing.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you tell a movie theater they're not allowed to show the Rocky Horror Picture Show, people will fucking riot.
That is the one that I don't think that they're ever going to put away.
Right.
And if they do, they better have a very good reason on why they're going to do that.
Right.
Because shit, I was just looking at tickets for this month. I just was hey, what shit's going on at the Alamo? Mm-hmm. And there's the Rocky Horror special Alamo version of it, and it's completely sold out.
Yeah.
They don't do it very often. This isn't a monthly thing that Alamo does. It's maybe once every 6 months to a year that they do this. So I was cool. I wish I'd known about that. I would have gotten tickets ahead of time. And I don't believe that is a film they'll ever truly put away. Maybe the sequel to it we definitely hide and just destroy and make sure it never sees the light of day, because there is a sequel to the Rocky Horror.
Yeah,
it's fucking awful. Don't do it.
I don't know anything about that life.
Yeah.
You've actually participated in Rocky Horror on stage. So
I did the actual musical. I didn't do the film thing.
You didn't do the shadow.
Yeah, I didn't do the shadow thing, which isn't really acting. It's just kind of just walking back and forth while a movie plays.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get why people like it. It's not for me. I like the actual musical because the songs are in the correct order and the story makes more sense. But no, there is a sequel to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I can't remember the name of it right now, that Richard O'Brien did. There is the most recent live TV version that they did that was fucking awful. I tried watching it. I got 30 minutes in and it was nope, I'm done. No amount of me liking Rocky Horror can deal with this fucking abomination. It's basically the original or nothing. But it's complete aside to the subject of Disney and what they've been doing. I get why they're doing this, and I think that they're treating this locking away of films more like they're doing their Disney history of the vault, but also the way that they've had to deal with the rights to other companies. They've been working with Hulu for ages because they own half of that.
Right.
Now fully own it. They've been working with Netflix to get their things on there. They've been working with these other companies, and they understand that limited time contract, and that brings audiences in because they know they have a very small amount of time to watch it. And if they do that with their own streaming service, even better. I think that right now, the locking them into not being shown in theaters is just a side product because of how they're trying to handle their own distribution system that they're creating.
Right.
So I think that this might get eased up for distribution in the future.
You think that we're being very reactionary right now?
Yeah, that they just kind of like, oh, we'll just put all the movies into the vault like we've done for ages, and then we'll figure out the online streaming like timetable we want when we want to release stuff.
Right.
And then we'll go back to putting the movies in theaters at some point. We just got to figure it out. Right now, they're in the fucking figure it out stage.
Right.
And this, I don't think they actually know what they're doing.
They are spinning a lot of plates right now.
Yeah. So. And weirdly, there is actually a plate spinning, the thing that was at Disney World. I remember that when I was a kid. Thank you for giving me a childhood memory.
Oh, there you go.
I was watching them just spin plates. There was a whole
now that I've
thing.
given Tony some childhood memories, actually, Tony and I have a lot of childhood memories that we're about to start talking about. We're going to take a small break, and when we come back, we'll be going into our main topic in Spoopy season in the Spoopy Boss Room.
There we go. I was trying to find the stop button while it's a mouthful of beer.
Yeah, I'm going to go grab a cider. Oh, God, that's so potent. I forgot how potent that beer is.
Yeah, no, that one I had, I was like, by the time I got to the end of it, it's like, oh, like two of these and I'm fucking just flavorfully done.
Get wrecked.
Yeah, there was a comment a long while. I gotta scroll through the chat because y'all talked so fucking much that I was going to comment on a long fucking time ago. It was towards the beginning, and cool. So this window cuts off chat history, and this one is way tinier. Let's go way. Let's use the. So y'all were talking about Love, Death, and Robots. How we need more like Western anime stuff. Yeah, that was a thing. No, not Tiki Drinks. He got this super high like 9.0 alcohol content from High Brewery, and it's really good. I'm just drinking Lone Star. I want to do Tiki Drinks because I think we need to drink a shitload of rum on the show for some reason. Thank you. The No, there is. Y'all were talking about Love, Death, and Robots, and I wanted to bring up the Sturgill Simpson's new album has an entirely animated Netflix thing that they created together. So it's his. I don't think it's the entire album. It's most of the songs, but they're all animated, done kind of like the Animatrix, where it tells this whole story throughout it, done by different teams, making all these different short films based around the music that he created. And if you know who Sturgill Simpson is, that sounds like a fucking insane idea because he's a weird, like, psychedelic country singer. But this is a kind of a rock album thing, and now it's got an anime, literally movie that goes along with it. It's a fucking weird thing. Like, enjoy it, have fun. I didn't bring it up on the show because I'm pretty sure I was the only person that's going to watch this.
Yeah.
I like his music. I like that album. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, by the way, we animated this crazy weird ass story for the whole thing. It's a fucking weird ass story.
That's weird.
It's called Sound and Fury, and it's fucking weird, and I fucking love it. Just go watch that. Also, apparently, I had BoJack, one of the biggest plot points, ruined for me yesterday, and I was like, cool. Now that I know that, I actually would watch that episode because it sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic
Shuro episode. That's the one that was like, cool. I now know the plot of that. I know what happens in that one episode, and
it's fantastic. It's a fantastic show.
It's
going to be, again, I think that you would really enjoy it, but also like it might be a rough ride.
See, it's been the first few episodes are rough riders because the animation is shit. The characters are annoying as fuck. The dialogue really isn't that funny. Like the first few episodes are awful. They are not good. I was just watching you and like it's the same problem I had with Bob's Burgers. Like, outside of a couple small scenes, I don't like that show. And unfortunately, the few scenes that I like are fucking hilarious, and I love them.
I feel that way about Letterkenny. The animation is just so bad in that show that it's hard for me to watch it.
There is actually animated Letterkenny.
I'm sure there is.
There's it's actually Little Kenny. They did the origin stories of how like they met, so that's them in like kindergarten.
Wow.
I'm not joking. There's like 3 episodes.
We have a lot to get through.
They're like 3 minutes long, but they do exist.
Again, audience, if you have any questions about what we're going to be talking about or have a genuine interest in the topic and you want us to explore a certain part of it, let us know so we can dive into it because we want to be educational and informative about this. So
I also just really hate the art style of Bob's Burgers. That's primarily what I don't like is that. Sorry, you wrote a lot of text that's really far away. Roadrunner Records. Oh, East Coast Throwdown. That was the fighting thing. They're shilling Virgil Simpson. That's weird.
That's awesome.
I mean, like, I love his music. Like, I've just loved it for years because it's just fucking weird.
All right, let's do this. Let's get into our childhood.
Oh, I need to click a button.
You do. Ooh, fancy button.
It does a thing.
It does do a thing.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear us okay?
Yeah, let's double check this one now.
Double check. Now that we've transitioned, can you hear us? Are you getting enough oxygen?
Sorry, there's a joke that I really wanted to make
Yeah,
that I knew I shouldn't make, so I just had to stop for a second. I just like tell it to myself.
I appreciate that. All right, we still have sound. Good to go.
Cool. What is this fucking part called? Boss Room?
Boss room.
Boss Room.
Hey, adventurers. Welcome back to the show. This week, before we get started on the Boss Room, which is our main talking point for the podcast, sometimes related to the news, sometimes not, I want to give you a list of the upcoming games that are going to be getting released probably within the next year and a half.
2 years max.
2 years max. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. Vampire the Masquerade Expandable Card Game. Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. So what do all of these games have in common?
Wait, they're doing a computer version of the card game?
We know that they're getting a physical card game. It may get a digital version.
Okay, because I knew that there was a physical card.
This is a new card game.
Yeah, I know. I just kind of freaked out. I was like, wait, they're bringing back that god awful fucking wannabe magic.
It was so bad.
Yeah, I remember moving your cards recently.
I have so many of them. I'm sorry.
They're fucking awful.
So what do all of these games that are going to be coming out within the next year have in common?
Well, World of Darkness.
World of Darkness.
Aside from the fact that most of them are Vampire the Masquerade titles, with the one being the Werewolf the Apocalypse. Most of these, they're all based on the World of Darkness tabletop game is what it originally started out as.
It did.
As a alternative to the traditional D&D landscape of, fighting dragons and knights in shining armor. This was a game studio that released a game that was dark and broody and gothy and angsty and basically our teenage years boiled into a fucking game.
So so as we're diving into this, we should go ahead and ask the question, what is the World of Darkness and why we're going to be talking about it today? Well, obviously there's about like 5 or 6 games that are going to be coming out that are based in the World of Darkness. The World of Darkness itself, just like you said, Tony, was based in a pen and paper RPG done by White Wolf Studios. It encompasses several different games. So D&D has like D&D main module, and then it has like D&D Greyhawk, and then like D&D
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms. World of Darkness is very similar, except for the fact that all of those games have a shared universe. They aren't separate. So Dragonlance is different than Greyhawk, which is different than Ravenloft. In World of Darkness, every single module works together. So Vampire is in the same world as Werewolf, is in the same world as Wraith, in the same world as Mage, same world as Changeling, right? And you actually brought up a very good point. One of the big differences for this gaming system is that it takes place in a modern setting. It isn't a sci-fi setting. It isn't a fantasy
future,
setting.
It isn't the past. It isn't an alternate timeline where fucking hobbits exist.
Right.
Actually, kind of is.
Well, Changeling. But human beings exist, and that's what everything's based around. It's supposed to be a very grungy, dirty, the world is kind of horrible, bleak and depressing thing. So why are we talking about this? Because believe it or not, this franchise, this RPG system is actually way more influential to a lot of the pop culture that actually exists in the world today. And we've been having so many weeks of this podcast over the last several weeks where it's been horrible fucking news. I figured it was spoopy season. It's just me and you on the podcast today.
Might as well talk about something.
Talk about something that we love. Talk about something that really informed us. I mean, for a lot of people, the World of Darkness RPG system is the series that defined a generation. And now more than ever, with Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition coming out, game developers are taking notice. They're starting to make more and more games based on its lore. Just the list that I gave you earlier are just some of the titles that are supposed to be coming out in this universe. And this is just for the record, like this was a daunting topic to talk about because the World of Darkness is such a huge influence on both Tony and I growing up. My first chat room was a World of Darkness chat room. My actual online alias literally comes from the game Vampire the Masquerade. This is a topic that I've wanted to do for so long, and I apologize if we leave anything out. There's so much to talk about. Let's just jump into it. So, Tony, how would you define the setting of the RPG World of Darkness?
Aside from annoying gothy teenager, because that's like that's what like my mind of the World of Darkness is entirely surrounded.
So back
my first introduction to it.
So back in the 90s, World of Darkness was marketed as our world, but just a little bit darker.
Yeah.
I don't know if
and
that
like a billion times more angsty.
I don't know if that applies anymore as a descriptor given the world that we live in. But how would you describe the setting?
Sorry, my brain went like, if you had to redo that advertisement right now, it's like, it's our world, but now there's vampires in it. It still sucks.
Right.
Like, that's, like, I think the World of Darkness prepared me for this future that I now live in, because it was like, well, here's this world where everything kind of sucks and everything's awful and everybody's trying to kill each other, and that's the world you're going to play in within your head and with other people. And then you get to reality and go, oh, fuck, this is adulthood. Yeah. No, I totally forgot your question already.
Yeah, so the setting itself is our world, but a little bit different. So how do I explain?
Well, the way I always explain to people who didn't understand it was like, you take the everyday thing, your daily job, you're going on, whatever, except for the house that's down the street that you think is abandoned isn't. There's actually like werewolves that live in there. And that's the people you see coming and going. They're not crackheads. They're fucking wraiths or something.
Right. When somebody says like my house is haunted, like there probably is a ghost.
There literally could actually be a ghost in there. Right. It's just taking that like the films and books and everything we've read, the haunted world, the ghosts, the things that go bump in the night, and instead of saying like, oh, those are entirely made up in your head, you're like, they exist.
Yeah.
They exist, they live around us. They just you don't get to see them. Think like Buffy the Vampire Slayer was had to have been influenced by this.
Oh, absolutely.
It was influenced by Buffy. I don't know. Either way, that's the same kind of idea, that there's whole places going on that for some reason everybody's okay with living in a town where teenagers die every fucking day.
Yeah, no,
Buffy made no sense.
And no, I mean, the World of Darkness as an RPG has been an influence on so much of the media. Like, you cannot even believe. Like, Buffy is a huge example of that. True Blood is an example where...
Oh, the Southern Gothic fucking vampire stories that
not
the
even
Sookie Stackhouse books made to the forefront. But prior to that was the Anne Rice books, which I think which we know influenced the World of Darkness stuff.
Right. Anne Rice influenced the World of Darkness books, but the World of
Darkness then influenced Sookie Stackhouse books, which then influenced the True Blood series, which now everybody loved for quite a long time.
And by the way, if you think that we're just pulling bullshit out of our asshole here, the way that the vampire hierarchy works in True Blood is literally the way that it works in the World of Darkness books. They literally just wrote the same thing. Like,
yeah,
there's a prince, there's a thing under it. They give them different names.
Sheriff and all that. Well, it's very similar. The names are slightly different.
Right.
It's just slightly not legally the same.
Right. And by the way, just I want to throw this out here. If what we're talking about today and this thing that we're super excited about is interesting to y'all at all, there is a documentary about the World of Darkness on Amazon. Seriously, we made Hector watch it.
Streaming platform.
Yeah, we made Hector watch it, and he walked away from it being like, I didn't even realize that like this was a subculture that existed in the world.
Oh, no, that documentary is amazing.
It's like if you woke up one day and realized like metalheads were a thing that actually exists. Yes, we know that they all exist, but people who played White Wolf are on that same level. They've been existing in our world for years. Tony and I are two of the members of the people who lived in this world for ages.
Yeah, no.
And you had no idea.
Like, just piles of books. I pre-ordered a collection of short stories about one of the game types that they hadn't come out with yet. It was the Angel one for the demons. Yeah. They released a paperback book of like 10 short stories.
I have that book.
And I pre-ordered it because I was like, this is super cool. I want to see this like fallen angel. It's like demon fall or Fallen Angels or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a really cool premise, and I already like the vampire and werewolf shit. What are they going to do with demons? And then I read the short stories, like, cool, I'm all on board on this. And then the game came out, and I didn't play it.
It was a bad game. So it does have a documentary. Do go watch this if any of the stuff that we're talking about today seems fascinating to you. So yeah, we have this idea where you have this. The setting is our world right now, but supernatural things exist, but people can't see them for whatever reason. Maybe
the show Supernatural is very similar in that idea.
Right.
If you watch the show Supernatural and you get the idea of like werewolves and vampires totally exist, but most people just ignore what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of the way that World of Darkness works.
Yeah.
But when you're finally awakened to it, and that's a mage term, but I will just use that generically, awakened to seeing the supernatural world, you then see it all around you. You then go, oh shit, like there's stuff fucking everywhere.
Werewolves and vampires and all the shit all over the place.
Right. And every
Mummy was
every
a thing.
different faction, like the werewolves or the vampires or whatever, have different ways of getting around human beings and not being detected by them, so that they're not on the media all the time. That's a big part of the way these games work as subterfuge.
I see what you did there.
I did.
That was awful. Anybody who's played the game understands what the subterfuge part is. It's fucking awful.
Now, the World of Darkness itself, if you go and watch this documentary, you'll realize that this is has a much bigger fan base than just Tony and I. We aren't just two dudes that liked a little niche thing. This was a subculture of RPG players that sometimes played this game tabletop, but for the most part, most players of the World of Darkness played it in a LARP setting.
Well, they played
live action
Vampire the Masquerade in a LARP setting. This is one of the things I did want to bring up, that it was a traditional pen and paper tabletop game. It used as their modified D10 system. Because when I was Brooklyn in chat's like, I can play this in D20. I'm like, no, it's a D10 separate system.
Fourth edition, I actually think, was D20, but we don't talk.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about.
We don't talk about that. Right? I only talk about the one that I like, and that's the old one that used D10s. And it was I played a lot of the stuff that wasn't vampire that way. I played Changeling that way. I played Werewolf a lot that way because it's just easier to do that Mind's Eye Theater, which is weirdly where the live action version was called Mind's Eye Theater, and it was easier to do vampire that way because dressing up as a weird goth kid was basically open up fucking most of our closets already, and it was perfectly fine. But the dressing up as a giant werewolf, like literally like 8 foot tall, not going to work whenever you're 5'5" and it's fucking like 8th grade and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's different, yeah.
So yeah, it's important to point out that yes, a lot of these games in the World of Darkness were played with pen and paper. But the way that the World of Darkness is generally known is for the fact they had giant LARP games, live-action role-playing games. And to the novice listener, when they think live-action role-play, they think of that fucking internet video from the 90s.
Magic Missile. They think of that. It's not that.
It's not that.
It's people playing rock, paper, scissors.
Right, that is true. The World of Darkness, when you watch it in live-action form, is more akin to watching somebody making a one-act play.
Yeah.
This is something that Hector actually talked about. He wanted me to put it in the notes for today, was that when you watched people do live-action World of Darkness, it looked like you were just watching like a theater troupe almost, like fully dressed up and maybe acting something out that maybe you don't understand because you didn't show up at the right time for that theater troupe. But there's a play going on essentially.
Yeah, it's I would put it as like one of the the Glastonbury Festival or something like that, where you could walk down the streets and then all of a sudden you walked into the middle of a play and you're like, I don't know what's going on, and you had to like stop and watch for a second. You're like, okay, cool, you did a thing,
right? I'm
gonna go over here now because that happened in front of me, and you didn't know what it was, but it seemed like people were acting. They were in characters. They were dressed
up.
Yeah, dressing up was like
dressing to the nines is a very important.
But also like getting into character and being super weird gothy kid who wanted to be a fucking vampire bullshit. Like that was a thing, and I weirdly kind of miss it, but I also super don't at the same time.
I absolutely do miss it. I played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade, but bigger than that, I found more joy in running Vampire the Masquerade. I enjoyed being the storyteller and like running these giant campaigns and having, 40 players, in a live actions. You get 40 people like playing in a campaign like live action. That shit's fun. It's just it's impromptu acting. It's impromptu acting.
I liked that, but when I ran a like 40-person game for like 6 months, and I didn't like it. Mostly because I had this whole plot line that I was setting up and no one was figuring out. And like they were just doing their own thing. It's like, cool, you're having fun, but you're not doing any of the things that I'm trying to get you to fucking do. So what the fuck is wrong with you people?
You got to just go with the flow when it comes to these kind of things. If you ever played D&D, like it completely makes sense because sometimes the players don't want to do the thing that you want them to do. That being said, kind of going back to D&D for a second. We've talked about the fact that the World of Darkness as a RPG setting, beloved across the globe. Across the globe. There's literally a group, or there was a group, I think they still exist, called the Camarilla, which was you kind of buy into the game.
Oh yeah, it was a fan club for the World of Darkness universe.
That had a consistent global presence, and your stories...
Yeah, it was like the Pathfinder Society for Pathfinder, or whatever the Dungeons and Dragons version is that they have now. Those didn't exist whenever the Camarilla came out.
What you did in that game and the Camarilla games could have an impact on the actual lore of the RPG itself. Like in the physical books that are being published, what you did would have could change things.
Yeah, it was a back and forth. That the books affected what the stories, and then that people were acting out, and those stories people were acting out would then affect the books that were coming out.
So with millions upon millions of people globally that were playing the World of Darkness universe, if this series is so beloved with such a strong fan base, how is it relatively unknown compared to something like D&D?
Well, it's just a cultural underground thing that the games of the World of Darkness was a subset of a subset. You already had to be generally, I would consider them a marginalized weird person that was within a certain age range. You had to basically be between 14 and 24, and you had to be an outsider. Right. You had to be someone who was the weird punk kid, or the weird goth kid, or the weird whatever. And within that, you had to also be a person who kind of liked role-playing games or RPG games. Like you like playing video games where you get to kind of be another character or something. You had to like multiple things to get into this one niche.
The spirit of a theater kid.
Yeah, it was a theater kid, but you're like, I'm not gonna be that theater kid because they're fucking weird. But you're over there being weird.
You want to be a theater kid, but you don't want to be on stage in front of thousands of people.
Yeah, maybe you had stage fright, or you just felt socially awkward and you couldn't do that aspect of it. Right. And you didn't want to be, the person just flicking the lights or something. You wanted to be on stage, but maybe that stage only existed in your brain. Right. And that's where you got to do this at. So it had to be a series of unfortunate events had to take place to allow you to be introduced to the World of Darkness.
Are you saying that we're broken, Tony?
Yes, massively. We are not full people in any aspect. Our brains are not fully formed.
So you think the genre itself is the reason that it's difficult for people for it to be accessible. D&D is easier to understand because we've all been raised on Tolkien. That's the way that we picture fantasy.
We've seen the cartoons. We've seen we've seen all that. Oh, the vampire series, where the werewolves and the vampires fight each other. Kate Beckinsale. What the fuck that was called? That actually it had a lawsuit with World of Darkness, sued them over those films.
So it's called Underworld.
Underworld, yeah. Underworld got sued by the World of Darkness because they straight up ripped off everything from them.
They blatantly
ripped it off, and they literally just changed the names. That was it.
And by the way, if you think that's the only influence, again, it's not. Blade, Guillermo del Toro has actually come out flat out and said, the World of Darkness is the reason Blade looks the way that it does.
Yeah, it's like we took the character from the comic book that looks nothing like this, and then took it to the weird goth shit that was going on at the time, and that was the World of Darkness stuff. And obviously, Guillermo del Toro was a weird fucking marginalized kid who was very into very specific things, and he knew of these worlds because whenever you're a weird kid who likes monsters and movies and things, you find out about other shit too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so much I mean, I'm trying to think about other influences just off the top of my head. Obviously, Blade Underworld. If you ever watched WWE in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a character named Gangrel. It was a vampire character that was alongside Edge and Christian. Literally, that's a Vampire the Masquerade reference.
They had their own TV show for a little while.
They did. Kindred the Embraced was a TV show
It
made by
lasted for a season.
Aaron Spelling, because the lead actor died.
Yep.
Motorcycle accident. But Aaron Spelling made the vampire show. It was called Kindred the Embrace. Lasted one season. Very, very cheesy. Came out when I was about 16.
You can pick it up on DVD, and it's awful.
Can you?
Yeah, it's been on DVD. It's actually had a DVD release.
Yeah.
It's like a little box set thing you could get.
And in
Don't
fact,
do it.
In fact, White Wolf in the World of Darkness has been so influential that, I mean, it's even touched things like the Darkstalkers franchise. While they never put a character from the World of Darkness into the Darkstalkers franchise, God, it's hard to say. White Wolf actually sponsored Capcom to put out, I think it was Darkstalkers 3 in the arcades. And like as soon as you boot up Darkstalkers 3, the White Wolf logo shows up. Like that's how influential.
That also just
the World
shows you
of
how much
Darkness.
money they had at that time.
Oh,
Because they
yes.
do not have that anymore.
They do not have that money.
But that's the reason why we're getting all these new games and stuff is because they had to find a way to make money, so they licensed everything out. But they're trying to do that like we're going to license it, but we're going to oversee what you're doing because we want to have a little bit of control, make sure you're staying within our universe, within our property. And that's fine. Like we're getting all this resurgence of World of Darkness stuff. And I think it's time for us to talk about why we're getting that.
I think so. So it's spoopy season. Let's get personal for a second then. How did the World of Darkness, the RPG setting, how did all of that affect your life? Like, get personal about this.
We literally wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for Vampire the Masquerade.
It's true.
I basically just moved to Houston, and I was in an art class sitting next to a weird gothy kid, and I was like, okay, you're weird and interesting. And he knew a girl that I liked, and I was like, hey, what's her deal? And then I got to know him, and then he was actually literally reading one of the vampire like live action books, and it's like, what's that? And he's like, oh, let's make you a character. And it's like, cool, I guess I'll do that because I'm sitting in art class of nothing else to fucking do. Learning's thrown right out the fucking window. Yeah, it's fucking high school. Who actually learns in high school?
Who learns in art
Obviously,
class?
I didn't, and that shows you where I am economically. Okay, fuck off, please. Quit judging me, you fuckers. So I made my first character like that day. I didn't know what the fuck it was. I was like, I didn't even know how to play the game or anything or where to play it. I was like, okay, I got this piece of paper with some numbers on it. Cool, I guess. And then like a few months later, like, hey, this game's coming on. Let's go play this game because we hung out with other people at that point, and I think I already met you. So it was like, hey, dude, people, and literally my entire like circle of friends that existed in high school and for quite a while afterwards was entirely based around people I met having a conversation because this girl had really big boobs. I can't not bring that. That was the reason why I had the conversation because I was fucking like 16, and this girl had really big boobs. Like, she's pretty. Who's she?
My takeaway is that the origin story of our friendship is boobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the origin story of most friendships. Honestly, I literally have been talking to someone on a phone recently because I was at a concert. I turned around and went, Jesus, you have giant boobs. And then now I have her phone number. We just talk to each other about stuff. Because why not? Boobs make the world go round. Because they're also round.
So the World of Darkness, I mean, it obviously affected our lives in huge ways. We wouldn't know each other really if it wasn't for World of Darkness. Again, like I said, like there's so much of the World of Darkness that's tied into my life. You know, my online alias, my just tons of my first chat room, all this stuff. Like everything about the World of Darkness really did for a better part of like 20 years really encompass my life. Like I ran LARPs and so I would work my 9 to 5, and once or twice a week, my social interaction with other people was getting together, going to a LARP, being in character for a while. Then we'd all branch off, go to Denny's afterwards, chain smoke, drink coffee, whatever.
It was a lot of just chain smoking and drinking coffee. Honestly, if you were doing like a documentary about the World of Darkness players, it really, I feel like, should just be like entirely shot in a Denny's where people are just chain smoking.
Yeah, it really
in my brain, that's really all it was.
Yeah, and it's a really weird, interesting subculture because it really was people who wanted to be theater kids or were theater kids but weren't on stage being theater kids. It was a socially awkward group that were all outcasts, but kind of found friendship with each other that ended up becoming, a worldwide role-playing organization where you could literally influence the game itself just by showing up week to week and participating, and by being broody with like giant trench coats and like onks and shit. But you felt accepted. You felt like you were among your peers and people that respected you.
The one thing that I also really, really always appreciated about the World of Darkness universe, and this is across all of the games, was the taking of the mythology from different regions and finding a way to interweave those similar types of character bases.
Yeah.
So whenever you talk about the werewolves, you have like kind of the European myth of werewolves, but you also have the Native American myths of werewolves,
right,
and how those coincide to a degree. And those actually are the different tribes of werewolves. So you actually get to learn history in a way. You get to learn mythology throughout this system. The vampires is a lot of it. You do go into the history of vampires and also the history of mankind, and a lot of the religious texts that based on origin stories, because basically every religion has an origin story for vampires in it.
And they contradict each other within the universe.
Yeah, and then you have then you had Changeling, which got into what is the primary influence would be like Ireland and its Fey folk.
Right.
But more than that, you have all these different regional monsters that exist, the Grimm's fairy tale creatures, and using that as the basis, where you have the monsters that were in Germany or the stories that were coming from France, and you get to combine them into these different things. You get to learn more.
Yeah.
It's not just about what can you create and what can you do in it.
I became more fascinated by religion, like global religion, through playing the World of Darkness, because like, there's so many cool aspects. Like, I want to learn where this mythology comes from. I want to learn this. And so I found myself as a kid in high school eating up these theologies that I don't think I normally would have if it weren't for the fact that I was playing within the World of Darkness.
It taught me so much about, I kind of want to call it micro mythology, about these smaller subsets of that aren't necessarily part of like the Greek pantheon or anything. It's when you get to learn about what redcaps were and these other weird side creatures that are off to the weird side.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where Guild of Tor gets his influence and things like that. I'm like, we love
absolutely.
that same weird little side things where you're like, okay, the history of this one bit is really fascinating.
Hulu's been doing that series recently where they did like the 12 holidays or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they pick a holiday per month and they do something about it.
It's a horror movie once a month for the entire year, and it wraps up. This is the year.
Right.
It's been
and so
I haven't watched a single one.
Last year at Christmas, their one was Puka.
Yeah.
Which is something that I know is a mythological creature, and I only know about this creature because I played in the World of Darkness and learned about what the creature actually does.
Yes.
So it's really weird how it kind of all bled into itself. So we've given you a kind of general overview about the World of Darkness, and we could probably do an entire just like 365 fucking days a year podcast about the World of Darkness. But I do have a couple more questions I wanted us to dive into. Why do you think that people are hungry for more World of Darkness content now more than ever?
Okay, so we are now of an age where basically if you're not about to have a kid or having a kid like in the next couple of years, you're just not having kids. We are of that age group. We're in our like mid to late 30s to where we now have, let's just air quote, say income, and we are nostalgic for our past, for our childhoods.
Sure.
It's the reason why I've been so much looking up Disney stuff, because I want to go back to the brain of watching the Disney Channel and not giving a fuck about the evil that is outside my door. And for some people, that is World of Darkness stuff. And that is allowing the resurgence in popularity.
It's allowing those of us who are raised on it to become the people who now write it.
Yeah, there is that. I was going to say that the popularity never reached huge numbers as we've discussed.
I mean, it was millions, but it's not D&D numbers.
Yeah, it was a lot of they made a lot of money, but nowhere near D&D. Fucking Pathfinder, my favorite game based off of the D&D world, isn't near as fucking popular as that. Everybody knows what Dungeons and Dragons is. It's the quintessential role playing game.
Right.
It's like who makes JRPGs? Square Enix.
Right.
Who makes role playing games? Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep, that's true.
That's in your brain. That's where you immediately go to.
What's Batman's origin story?
Yeah, it's dead parents with some pearls on the fucking ground.
Yep.
There you go. Everybody know it's the iconography of it. While World of Darkness never had that, a lot of us, because we were marginalized, because we felt weird and out of place, were drawn to that side. And now we're of an age to where we have the ability to kind of relive that fun childhood past.
I would say that I believe myself to be strange and unusual.
Oh, fuck you. We also, it's the company went into a really weird dark place because of the failure of one of its expansion. Whenever they did Ragnarok, whenever they reached the end times, those game systems failed horribly. We just didn't talk about them. Nobody liked them.
There was a whole Gehenna arc. There was they actually started wrapping up the games, and they tried to reboot them into 4th edition, and nobody liked 4th edition.
And it failed, and they just went into a dark place, and the rights were kind of being bounced around. Now it's and they got involved with a video game company that does the EVE Online, and
there was supposed to be a World of Darkness MMO with persistent player death. So if you died in the game, that's it. You were dead.
Now make a new character because have fun.
Yeah.
That was interesting and great, but they took the massive amount of money they did save and then tried to branch out. It didn't work very well, but now they're trying to find a way to keep the license alive by reaching out to these new companies and finding smaller, more personal stories that they can tell with those rights. So basically, the rights to the games are relatively cheap, and people can make cool, interesting stuff that they're overseeing more.
Right. And so what we have is that when CCP finally kind of fell through and they no longer started trying to make the MMO, we now, 10 years later, have the creators of the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is considered to be one of the greatest sleeper hits of all time. Yes, it took a lot of fan mods to get there, but it is considered one of the greatest, 451 kind of games out there that exist. When we talk about the vein of something like a BioShock or a Deus Ex or something, those lines, like that's the level of quality that we now think about when we talk about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Like literally, I think it's on Good Old Games, and if you buy it, you get it with all the fan mods.
You get it with all the fan mods.
Because it's the corrected version.
Right.
Like the studio's like, yes, this is right. We're going to give you what everybody made better.
So I think to kind of go back to my initial question, I think that people have an interest in it now because we do have a nostalgia for it. However, there is a lot to be said for the Vampire the Masquerade marketing team where they've created 5th edition, and alongside 5th edition, they've started launching video games that were made alongside 5th edition so that every version of the game you play mostly abides by the rule system for the game that you want to play.
I'm interested in seeing this 5th edition stuff because I haven't really looked into it, because the last time I was looking into buying the books, like the actual tabletop books, not the live action stuff, because that's going to be on the back burner for them for quite a while. Yeah. I was through Kickstarters, and this was like 10 years ago. They were re-releasing
the old books.
The old books. I think it was 3rd edition, that one that we played, the one that we enjoyed.
We played 2.5 and 3.
Okay, so the
gray book and the green book.
Yeah, the green book. They were releasing that series, but as these giant, like,
tomes.
Yeah, super hardcore bound leather editions of amazing, like, and it had all the new lore and stuff that had been changed and added, but still keeping the original system and new artwork or better, like, versions, higher definition versions of the artwork, like basically an absolute edition of the books.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when they came out to Kickstarter, these were like $100 each, and I kept going, cool, that is awesome. I want those. I'm not giving you $100 for that book. I've been fucked a little bit too much by this company, and now I'm looking at it going like, well, maybe the 5th edition isn't that bad. I can get the regular edition of it. I don't have to get a special Kickstarter edition, because at the time, that was the only way to get them. They didn't re-release those books outside of those super small limited runs. Now we've got this new 5th edition coming in. All the reviews are saying is like, if you liked World of Darkness, here you fucking go.
It's back, baby.
All that shit time that existed where you stopped playing it because it was shit and you had other things going on in your life. Now you can go back to having the thing that you liked.
It's back, and the story has actually evolved from where it was before. So you do not.
As long as I don't have to use that middle shit where I didn't want to do.
Right. So it cuts that out, but it says the system itself, the story has evolved.
Good, because a lot of it in the modern setting, specifically, I remember this from Werewolf the Apocalypse, was technology based. There was one of the werewolf tribes was technology based, and I really liked them. They were really cool. But
things like glasswalkers.
Yeah, glasswalkers. Yeah. The unfortunate side was the moment that book was written, it was now out of date. And anytime you put technology into a book, I remember there was one of the Vampire the Masquerade supplements that had technology stuff in it. It was like Seattle, and you played like a hacker or some shit, and everything in about that was laughable because it was it was set at the time it was created. People weren't future looking. And
The internet was like just starting to flourish at that point.
it was just people weren't thinking about having a thumb drive in your pocket that was 64 gigs,
right?
And it would transfer a fucking like a terabyte a second. Like nobody was thinking that these things were going to happen. They're like, oh, it's a 7 meg floppy that you carry around, and you're like, no, dude, we don't do that. Like nobody was thinking that far into the future whenever you're doing this, because futurism is a side subject that maybe one day we'll talk about on the show.
When we talk about Shadowrun. That's when we'll talk about it. Okay, so I have a few more questions. We're getting towards the end of this. I'm trying not to run too long. I hope that you're excited about this the way that we're talking about it. This was literally our childhoods. So I want to know, Tony, as somebody who's played a lot of the World of Darkness settings, there's a bunch of different RPGs out there, Mage of the Ascension, Wraith the Oblivion, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse. If you had to recommend a World of Darkness RPG setting for first-timers wanting to get into the World of Darkness, which one would it be?
Werewolf the Apocalypse.
You think so? Why?
So live action wise, if I was saying like, hey, you're gonna do your first LARP, Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay.
It's very easy to get into for live action role playing. The system is
politics, baby.
It's just politics. It's just going over people and lying to them a lot, which you're already doing anyway because you're acting. But Werewolf, I think, because it's easier to tell a story based on tribal ideas. Because we all have that tribal mindset within us. It's someplace in our brains. That's what exists. That's how society exists.
Yeah.
We're all tribal fucking creatures. And I think that it's very easy to tell stories within that universe.
I've always said that Werewolf the Apocalypse
But it also depends on the age and the audience.
Right. I've always said that Werewolf the Apocalypse feels like the D&D of the World of Darkness universe.
So whereas I can kind of consider the Changeling universe, the D&D, because it is more fantasy based.
I can see that.
And fantasy based, I mean like creatures with wings and shit. But it depends on who the audiences was. If I was going with one of our friends has a daughter, she's now played these games a lot. But if we were talking about this like 7 years ago, I'd be like, Changeling. I know she'll like Changeling more.
She's a kid.
Yeah, I know this is the thing that she would like. She's not into werewolf stuff. And it depends on what the kid likes, really. I mean, if you're going to run a D&D game, you're going to find something the kid likes. Oh, kid likes pirates. We're going to be doing a sea adventure.
Right.
Kid likes fucking werewolves. We're going to do werewolf stuff. Find the thing that is most easily associable. But for live action stuff, because it is politics, or because it's vampire and everything, and politics is the main point, it's fun, it's interesting, and it works as a live action setting.
Right.
Because when you're doing battle, it's generally psychic mind battle bullshit,
right,
and things that are completely made up and imaginary. Whereas werewolves, you're like, okay, cool, I imagine 7-8 foot tall dudes right in front of you. You're like, no, that's my sister.
Right.
That's not how this works.
Okay, so do you think that the World of Darkness could ever hit the level of success as D&D, or more importantly, should it?
No, it won't, and it should not. It's still to this day something that is more for marginalized people.
It's the counterculture thing.
Yeah, it's the counterculture. If you look at D&D as the mainstream version of nerddom, then this is the counterculture to it. It is the people that are like, no, we're just going to be over here doing our own thing. Let us have our own fun.
Right.
And you need to have things like for those types of people, and it does it very well. It does it very successfully to the point where you can convince people that aren't necessarily interested into it to go play it and try it out.
Yeah.
But it isn't something that will resonate with Joe Sixpack.
Right.
Is that still a term that we use?
I mean, there are a lot more bros that do play D&D these days.
Yeah, there are, and that's thanks to like Critical Role or whatever. I don't watch it because watching people play D&D is like watching people play video games. Why the fuck would I do that?
It's not for everybody, but some people enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's very irritating watching people make bad choices.
Right, but that's your prerogative.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just don't get it.
All right, and I agree with you. It being kind of the outlier kind of system, something that's kind of for the freaks, I feel like it doesn't need to be the popularity of D&D, but I think more people should experience it. This is going to be a little bit more vague, but do you think that playing in a World of Darkness campaign can tell you something about yourself, or that it can be therapeutic?
I do believe that, but I believe that's the same for any acting or any kind of tabletop experience.
Okay.
So
you feel like D&D can be therapeutic, but I've always felt like the World of Darkness allows you to really.
So D&D can be therapeutic in that maybe you're stepping your toe into therapy. You're going like, okay, I'm going to start pretending to be somebody else and work through whatever issues I have through this. But when you go into World of Darkness, because it is so varied and based on the mythology of humanity and not the mythology of fantasy, whereas you have dragons and elves, and it's very locked into that kind of fantasy element, that Tolkien-esque thing.
Right.
When you look at the World of Darkness, because it is this international mix mash of all of our mythologies and all these dark things that go bump in the night across the fucking globe, there's a way to associate with it with anybody.
Right.
And whenever you can start playing with that idea, you can start playing with the idea of self and what your interests are, and you can start breaking down
You can play with race. You can play with gender. In the case of the Zamish, you can talk about they have
Body horror.
They have body horror. They have the ability to literally just skin graft at will. So if you're somebody that said,
Those are my favorite.
I've never wanted a sexual organ, you can play a character that's removed that from themselves.
Yeah,
it allows you to explore these deeper and dark. And I say darker, not necessarily in a negative connotation, just in a way that maybe you were afraid to explore that part of yourself.
No, I think that this is going to be probably the most weird statement for all of us. I think that the World of Darkness, because it did speak to these, like I keep saying, marginalized people, allowed a lot of people to come out and a lot of people to start to transition and start to understand who they are, because they got to experience this character, let's just put air quotes around that, that they invented, which really just part of their brain to begin with, that they wanted to see what was out there. Maybe it was because there was a cool power in a book. That's what got me. It was like, oh, I like this character, or want to make this character that has a cool power. But for some people, might be drawn to the mythology of that character type or that creature in one of the other games, because it spoke to them and spoke to something about them at a fundamental level that they didn't understand, and it allowed them to explore those ideas externally instead of trying to keep them internal.
And to be accepted by the players and characters that you surround yourself with. Maybe
as accepted as you can be. Because in some cases you show up and you're like, I'm gonna do this. You're like, no, you're not, because that's not allowed.
You're not having 12 dicks. But otherwise, I feel like, yeah, it can be very therapeutic, because there is a lot of World of Darkness, especially in a LARP scenario. And I preface a lot of our statements with in a LARP scenario, because that's primarily what you and I did. That
was most of our playthrough together. I did a lot of the tabletop stuff with a group of friends. Like, you knew of them, but that I also was like friends with them as well. I was in between.
You were cheating.
I played werewolf fucking with other people. I'm sorry.
I don't like werewolf as much as
I liked his version of werewolf, not the one that we were playing with y'all. Like that version of werewolf, I didn't enjoy. This one I liked.
I'm more of a changeling person if I'm trying.
Changeling. If I'm going to do a tabletop game for just a fun, weird ass psychedelic time, changeling. Now I'm getting ideas for a game. Fuck, I've got an idea for a werewolf game in my head for years now, and I can't do it. It's World War II, but you're playing werewolves. That's literally it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the World of Darkness, the RPG itself. Obviously, it's very much influenced Tony and I. We wouldn't be literally sitting here if it wasn't for the fact that the World of Darkness exists. It's really cool that it's making a comeback in a huge way. We're seeing all these new video games come out. Obviously, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been pushed back because they want to make the most accurate representation of the World of Darkness.
Yeah, did we talk about that last week?
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Okay.
And there's all these other games that are going to be coming out in the World of Darkness that I hope that you'll just go out there and check out. Like, literally Google Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse. There's even older games out there that are not RPG, but there's Hunter the Reckoning. There was an old Xbox game that you can pick up on Steam. It's like a Diablo game, but the Hunter universe is part of the World of Darkness. It's all awesome, and it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, please talk to us about. Just reach out to us and be like, "Hey, bro, tell me more about the World of Darkness," or give me your recommendations. I do want to say that there is the World of Darkness documentary on Netflix. Go on if you're interested in the World of Darkness and all, and want to dive into it a little bit deeper. Outstar on YouTube. She does playthroughs of all the various World of Darkness games. She also has clan breakdowns for Bloodlines 2, where she explains what the clan is, what their role in vampire society is, so that when you go into Bloodlines 2, you understand the factions.
Yeah, I'll actually need that, because that shit's changed, and I don't know what's going on anymore.
She breaks it all down for you. A+, seriously, I watch every single video that she puts out. And if you want to just ask us some general questions about the World of Darkness, Tony, where can they find us? Where can they reach out to us?
Facebook.com/TheSillyNerd. Like, share. Twitter's @TheSillyNerd. Info@TheSillyNerd.com is our email address. Website Sterling.com. Donate on there. Donate on Twitch.tv, or send us bits or whatever the fuck the thing is. We're on Mixer. We're on all that bullshit. Okay, I'm done.
All right, that's everything that we have for the show this week. Guys, keep it spoopy. Enjoy your Halloween. Be safe. And until next week, for Tony, this is James.
For James, this is Tony.
Adventurers, good night.
And good game. Yeah, no, next week, like, I get that we're going to have to, like, so spoiler for everybody who's still sticking around, we're totally talking about, like, Blizzard next week.
It's going to be a train
Which
wreck.
works because, it's the Halfway to Hell episode.
Yeah.
Which I think is what we should probably title it, because that's a good name that I just came up with.
Probably, well, we have to put at least something theme related, so it'll probably like Blizzard brings us halfway to hell.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I know, I really just, like, any horror news that we can put into there, that's where we need to go.
Blitz Show 2019. Completely agree. I've had to pee for like 20 minutes. Thank you guys very much.
All right,
for
I'm going to sign
sticking
us
with
out. So either way, we'll think about that.